Nearly a month after the House passed 2 lame articles of impeachment against President Trump, Speaker Nancy Pelosi finally announced that her urgent case needed to be slowly actually transmitted to the Senate.
He abused his power and obstructed a constitutionally inspired impeachment inquiry. And in America, no one is above the law. The next step is simple. The Senate should conduct a fair trial.
Oh, yeah, he's not biased. The slow roll of Pelosi's articles, that itself speaks volumes about the absurdity of this entire exercise. When pressed about why she decided to send the articles, despite 0 concessions from McConnell on process procedure, senior members of her own party struggled to move beyond gibberish.
She's thought very carefully about this in conjunction with the committee chairs who have been responsible for this, and she will, make her case and proceed forward.
Can I buy a vowel, please? I'm not seeing how that answered the question. Well, the Senate Majority Leader is clearly in the driver's seat.
A House majority fueled by political animus may have started this with frivolity, but it will fall to the Senate to end it with seriousness and sobriety.
You bet. He's right. The Senate's not beholden to the lower chamber in determining trial procedures, any more so than the Senate can dictate what the House does. Pelosi knows this, though. It's all just a farce from beginning to end. McConnell, frankly, has been a beacon of clarity now for weeks, raising the requirements of the constitutional questions at every turn. He's repeatedly demonstrated how absurd and obscene this entire Ukraine impeachment was from the start. And today, McConnell gave the appearance, of holding the door open to witnesses at the Senate trial.
We'll be dealing with the witness issue at the appropriate time into the trial. And I think it's certainly appropriate to point out that both sides would want to call witnesses that they wanted to hear from.
You see the little trick going on there? But as I said last night, look, McConnell has the power to end this national nightmare. He could, in his opening resolution tomorrow, include a motion to dismiss the fraudulent articles of impeachment. The facts, the law, and the Constitution require it. An actual trial is only necessary if preceded by a legitimate indictment. That didn't happen here. The process in the House was infected by partisan taint and defective legal arguments. First, the House failed to make their case under applicable law. The Constitution clearly states a person can only be impeached for treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. Here, none of that was established. There was no underlying crime.
This would be the first impeachment in history where there would be considerable debate and, in my view, not compelling evidence of the commission of a crime.
The 2 articles filed against the president are deficient on their face. The first, abuse of power, is just totally made up. According to the radicals in their party, the president is abusing his power every time he enforces, let's say, immigration law. They're all saying that all the time. He can't do this. He's abusing his power. So would that count, too, as an article of impeachment? You see how just a wide berth this is? The president acted squarely with his Article 1 powers in his telephone conversation with the Ukrainian president. And the Ukrainian president himself said he felt no pressure, no quid pro quo. This is why the Democrats abandoned their talk of the quid pro quo and, of course, all the other stuff they were throwing in, the kitchen sink, extortion, you name it.
There are a number of events you are investigating to which I cannot bring any firsthand knowledge.
What I can do here for you today is tell you what I heard from people.
You really have no testimony today that ties President Trump to a scheme to withhold aid from Ukraine in exchange for these investigations.
Other than my own presumption.
Which is nothing.
That's my favorite of all. The second article, obstruction of Congress, is even more illegitimate, if that's possible. So now we're going to impeach presidents in the future who exercise their rights to exert privileges or otherwise defend their executive authority? That's going to be interesting. From day one, Schiff and company made it clear that they wouldn't go to court to enforce subpoenas. What did that tell you? That told you they had no confidence in their case. They claimed there was no time. They pointed to the urgency of the matter. We had to stop Trump. He was going to do it again. Remember all that? But it was like hurry up and wait for an entire month. Tomorrow, she's going to hand the impeachment articles to the Senate. If anyone should be charged with abuse of power, it's Pelosi and Schiff.
If you impeach a president, if you make a high crime and misdemeanor out of going to the courts, it is an abuse of power. It's your abuse of power. You're doing precisely what you're criticizing the president for doing.
Second, the politics of this impeachment stink to high heaven, always have. Democrats didn't get a single Republican to vote for it, not one. The framers made it very clear that impeachment had to be bipartisan to be legitimate, and the underlying conduct had to be egregious.
Hamilton in Federalist 65 said the greatest danger is for impeachment to turn on how many votes one party could have against the other party. And that's exactly what happened. It would be ideal if we had impeachments that were neutral, objective, bipartisan. This case doesn't rise to that level in any sense.
It shouldn't be treated as legitimate either. Democrats used to agree that impeachment shouldn't be driven solely by one party.
We are here today because the Republicans in the House are paralyzed with hatred of President Clinton, and until the Republicans free themselves of this hatred, our country will suffer.
History is going to question whether or not this was just a partisan lynching or whether or not it was something that, in fact, met the standard, the very high bar.
Back then, Biden actually remembered where he was. So what happened? Donald Trump happened, that's what. Finally, it's time that members of Congress start earning their paychecks. We face a wide array of challenges that need the president's undivided attention. Iran, infrastructure, the skyrocketing costs of health care still. This is all a dangerous distraction, and McConnell should continue to call it out as such. Oh, and Mitt Romney and the other folks who are a little wobbly, maybe. Mitt Romney has the opportunity to be a hero here. Yes, I said hero. He and a handful of the other wavering Republican senators have the power to preserve the legitimacy and the check of impeachment. Allowing new witnesses into the process at this point, it only empowers the partisans that began this madness from the beginning. The constitutional deficiency is obvious on its face. I think Romney knows that. It's imperative that they stop the Democratic senators itching for a show trial. Allowing this impeachment to go forward only serves to set a poisonous precedent for future commanders-in-chief, long after Trump is gone. So this is the time for the GOP to stand together, just like they did in the face of the Kavanaugh smears. Lending any legitimacy to the House's acidic articles would burn a hole through the Constitution and, frankly, the Senate's legacy. And that's the angle.